All right, let's do this. We've got 15 people joining us tonight. So thank you so much for joining. I'm really excited to share this with you all. See a lot of familiar names too, which is really great to touch base with you because I'm definitely missing ride season. I'm sure you all are too. And it just sucks not to be able to go out and see everyone and be on the trails and in that familiar campsite. Over in the Dufferin too. So it's a little sad, but at least we get to be here, and I can see your names and I can see your messages pop up. So I wanted to introduce you to today's Octra Talk, and my webinar is Basic Fitness Training for Endurance Riders. I'm going to take you through. Oh, there we go. So a few housekeeping things before we get started. One, it's being recorded, and I already blew my joke because Julie asked if we were muted, and yeah, no, I can't actually see you guys, so don't worry, I won't see you picking your nose or rolling your eyes at me when I tell you to do something you don't want to do. So yeah, it's being recorded simply for the fact that I want to be able to post it onto YouTube afterwards so that you guys can rewatch this, and anybody who wasn't able to join us tonight can come and get the same information as well. I do encourage you to ask questions. I see a lot of you have figured out the chat portion, so that's really good. However, I am going to start asking some questions where I want you guys to use the chat portion. If you want to ask me questions, I do ask that you use, there's a Q&A feature, and you'll see that should be in along the same settings as where you are looking for your chat and your participants. So it should be in the same locations that you're looking at on your computer or your phone there. So if you have a question, type it in there, and other participants can actually upvote it too. So if we're running out of time towards the end of it, if you upvote the ones that you really want to hear, I'll make sure that we get to those ones first as well. The other thing I wanted to say is to join the Ride Like an Athlete community if you haven't already. It's a free Facebook group that I'm running for riders who want to improve their athletics for their riding. Mostly endurance riders, but we have all disciplines there too, and everybody is welcome. I also wanted to remind you too that this is co-hosted with Octra, and I wanted to remind you all to renew your memberships because they are doing these every 2 weeks, and a lot of them are going to be for members as a special treat to them. So make sure you're getting your memberships in if you haven't done that already. And the last thing is I'm doing my best. I hope I don't cut out. I've been very good recently, but I've got country internet, and a previous Zoom one, it did cut me out. So hopefully I don't lose you. If I do, sit tight. I'm doing what I can to get back. And I promise I will come back. So that's my last apology there. So who am I, in case you are unfamiliar with me, or maybe you just don't know kind of some of the details about me. I wanted to share with you my, I would say my fitness and my riding journey, because they completely intertwine, and you'll see why kind of throughout this presentation too. So in 2011, I started riding with Octra. I think my first ride was an 11-mile ride. I was riding other people's horses for the first year or so. And I was absolutely hooked. And then I bought my horse, who a lot of you will know, Bentley. His name if you look it up in Octra, is Cricklewood. He is a big 16-1 Trakehner Arab cross. He very much stands out in ride camp because he's huge. That's not a picture of him there, but there's lots of pictures in here. You'll recognize him. In 2013, we did our first 50. And then immediately after the first 50, I said, I like this, I want to do more, and I signed up for the Mongol Derby the following year. So that was when I really started considering my rider fitness, was because I had this absolutely unsurmountable task of trying to ride 1,000 kilometers on wild horses. I had 8 months to train for it, and I hired an online personal trainer. She's actually based in Ottawa, Heather at Equifit. And she helped me train for the Mongol Derby by doing some of the things like what I'm doing tonight, giving me some exercises, giving me some training goals, and kind of just helping me talk me through how I was going to go from first 50 to Mongol Derby within 8 months. And that's really where I started learning about fitness in a serious capacity. After the Mongol Derby, I sat around for a while. I didn't do a lot. Not until 2016, where I did Race the Wild Coast, which is in South Africa. I signed up for that. I think I had almost a year to prepare, and I'm not gonna lie, I pretty much didn't prepare at all for that one. Definitely didn't take all the things that I learned for the Mongol Derby in training and apply it to there. Now, part of it was I did have an injury. May of that year, I couldn't walk, let alone run or train to that. So I kind of came into it like last minute, and I think it was in August. They told us that we were going to be filmed for a documentary, and my vanity got to me, and I said, "Wow, I'm pretty squishy. I haven't been taking this seriously." And I started taking classes at Orange Theory because they boasted about how you could lose pretty good weight by doing their 1 hour classes. Um, not a secret whatsoever. Flash forward, I've still been going to Orange Theory ever since. The only reason that I've stopped recently is, well, because of COVID. So clearly the program worked really, really well for me. I loved it. And it really helped shape, um, my interest in fitness and my opinions of it as well. Um, then going into 2017, Bentley, he actually received a perfect vet score, which is not a rider fitness thing, but I do kind of attribute it to my newfound interest in learning about the rider fitness side of it. I was definitely getting fitter from my classes, but I think I was also developing a lot of empathy and kind of getting some ideas, because I would see what we would do in our classes and I say, I wonder if I could apply this to my training plan with Bentley. So I think a combination of me being fitter and being able to apply some of these principles really helped work towards that really cool accomplishment that I'm super proud of as well. Then in 2018, I did something completely different. I decided I wanted to race under saddle. For anybody who doesn't know what that is, it is you take the standardbreds who are usually raced in harness, you strap a saddle on them and you race them around the track. Now we do train them before, we don't actually just jump on a harness horse and go. But it is a completely different sport than endurance. Polar opposites, because it's short and it's fast. And again, I had to really start retraining my body from an endurance body to more of a sprint body. And I started to get to know more, and I started to start investigating things, and I was working more with the trainers, and I was doing more outside of the classes as well, really starting to understand my own fitness, how it applied. And then I started noticing how it was applying to other people too. I was noticing in the classes that I could pick out people's form flaws, and I could, I had better body awareness for myself. And of course, I'm not going to, go tap somebody on the shoulder and say, no, you shouldn't be doing it this way. Didn't have that right just then. So in 2019, I actually got, 2018, I also got Westy, my second horse, my standardbred. And then I was able to start bringing more riders out and introducing them to endurance, which was it was an absolute dream come true for me, because I really, really enjoy sharing this sport with everybody. So that was a dream come true. And I've also had some Mongol Derby riders come in and train with me. And I was noticing that they were asking me a lot of fitness questions, right? And it was something I was interested in. I was, doing my classes, I was building my own programs for me. I was, doing a lot of reading and research. And I started giving programs to the people who were riding with me as well. And trying to help them manage their injuries and just be better able to manage themselves in the saddle as well. So last winter, I decided I'm actually going to do this for real. I want to do it the best I can so I can constantly give the best and consistent service to people. So I went with Camp It Pro and started doing my certification in the winter downtime. And that's how I formed Ride Like an Athlete. So what is Ride Like an Athlete? It is obviously the training program that I have developed. And the reason that I came up with this name is a lot of reasons, but the main one is you always hear people say horses do all the work. And we all have our snapbacks for this. So like, if you guys want to share in the comments what your best snapback is, I want to hear it, because like we all have this, we've all heard it. So we all have this little default thing that we say back to everybody and say, nope, general public, you don't know anything about the demands of our sport. And it is. It's our sport is so physically demanding, and it's not just because of the riding itself, but it's all of the other things that are involved with it, taking care of the horses and, you know, carrying buckets and things like that. So we are athletes. We always go back and say, we are athletes. And then you'll usually say, I don't know, I say a lot of golf, are golfers athletes, and that just makes them more mad. But I digress. Riders are definitely athletes. But then as I started to think about it too, there are a lot of riders who don't really consider themselves athletes, or they do, but they don't behave like it. Reason being, I know a lot of people who ride because they don't want to do anything else. It's the only sport that they actually like doing. But when you look at other athletes in other sports, whether they're professional, competitive, or recreational, they're still doing a lot of cross training. You know, they're in the gym, they're working hard, they're working with trainers, they're constantly trying to better themselves outside of their standard sport, so that they can perform better, so that they can recover better, and so that that they can have a longer career as well. So my thought is, riders are athletes, but we also need to treat ourselves like athletes. And that's where I came up with the name Ride Like an Athlete. I also had this kind of epiphany about No Stirrups November. I used to love No Stirrups November. I would take my stirrups right off, and I was all up for the challenge. And there's a lot of people want to do No Stirrups November because they can prove how strong they are and how long they can last and how tough they are. But that's at the expense of your horse. So something that if you've been following me for a while, you may have heard me quote, I say, your horse is not a piece of gym equipment, but I've got some for you, and I'll show you some of my gym equipment later. We also have a culture of rider suffering, which is another aspect of treating yourself like an athlete. I believe that you deserve to be treated as well as your horse. We all have the jokes of, my horse gets shoes every 6 weeks and I'm still wearing the same bunnies from 6 years ago, right? You know, my horse has a complete balanced feed and I'm still eating ramen, right? So I put this little meme in here because I love SpongeBob, and I know Ashley's on here and Ashley knows SpongeBob as much as me. So I was hoping she would be chuckling when she saw this. We love investing in our horses, whether it is money, time, energy, effort. We love investing in our horses, but a lot of the time we're not treating ourselves with the same generosity too. So when I say ride like an athlete, it's a complete thing. It's not just saying we're going to go lift weight. It's about treating yourself with massage, chiropractic, even just getting regular physicals or a new pair of shoes, something that's going to help you be the best rider that you can be too. So getting into the meat of this now, why should we cross train? And these are some kind of textbook answers mixed a little bit with opinion. One thing you can't dispute is it strengthens your cardiovascular and respiratory system. So that's going to improve your stamina. It's going to help you last longer through your long day of riding. And it's going to help you recover better. You're not going to feel quite so awful the next day. Like, you're still riding 50, 100, whatever miles. You're still going to be tired and you're still going to be sore, and that's all going to happen. But maybe it won't last as long, or maybe it'll be like down from an 8 out of 10 down to a 6 out of 10 or something by better preparing yourself. Body composition is a big thing too. I know a lot of riders, they want to lose weight so that their horses don't have to carry as much. But then the other side of it is endurance riders were almost higher value by having higher weight because it is scored as a best condition score. So you have to kind of find that balance, and that's where body composition comes in. And that's why I didn't just say it's to lose weight, because by gaining muscle, you're also gaining weight. But if by losing the fat, you're gaining more usable weight, which is going to be better for your balance. It's going to be you're going to be able to be dynamic on your horse, and you're going to be better just overall to be able to take care of your horse. You're going to be less of a burden on him. It's going to reduce your risk of injury, both because you'll be a little stronger, you'll be able to stay in the saddle better, you'll be a little better balanced again. But also in the case of, you know, we all get tossed sometimes, just freak things happen, right? They see that scary rock out there. By improving our muscular strength, our bone density, and that we can actually reduce the risk of the injury as well when these accidents do happen. I've already mentioned it improves our balance. We all want to stay on top of the horse, not under it, but also just in general daily life too. We want to be functional in all the things that we do, and being a little bit more agile. Like, full disclosure, I have actually pulled my hip by taking off my pants, right? Things happen, but when you're fit and you're flexible, they happen a little less frequently. It's also going to improve the rider symmetry. So there are things that we can do in the gym that we can't do in the saddle to test our symmetry, but then also improve it too. And I also like to add in there that's personal accomplishment too. When we're riding our horses, we often like to say, it's all him or it's all her. And we love our horses so much. Like, I totally get it. I say it all the time. Like, my horses are really, really cool. I love them. They do such a great job. And I think that we need to give ourselves a little bit more credit too. So by taking away the horse factor, we can look at other metrics of our fitness and be proud of some of the other accomplishments that we have. I have a racing under saddle rider who I'm super, super proud of. She wanted to run 3 kilometers in 15 minutes, which is actually a standard for riding Russ. It's a European standard. They don't require it here, but they do require it in Europe. It's suggested here. And she hates running. And when I started working with her back last fall, she says, Sarah, I have to run. I got to do this, but I don't want to. I hate it. And we started working together. And every time she'd get a little better, a little better, a little better. Obviously, I haven't seen her in a few weeks, but every week she's texting me, and she hit it within the last, I think it was 2 weeks ago, she hit her goal of 3 kilometers in 15 minutes, and I was so proud of her, and she was so proud of her too. And I think that's just really cool to be able to do something other and be proud of yourself for something other than whatever you accomplish as a team. So it's obviously very good for your self-confidence too. Hear a lot of people, and I see a lot of jokes, and I used to say it too, is I don't need a gym, I'll ride and do farm chores. The other side of that joke is they should be paying me to come and do this if they want to pay for a gym, right? Like, have we told anybody, yeah, just come here, you can pay me and you can do my stalls for me, right? Because it is really hard work. Chores are tough. So the problem with that is, yes, you are getting a workout, but most equestrian chores are one-sided. So, you know, you think about things like mucking and sweeping, and that you're twisting, and most of us, unless you're really ambidextrous, you're using one side more than the other. So you're going to develop imbalances in your bodies. You can also develop injuries from repetitive strain, and even acute injuries too, because, you know, there's a little bit of danger factor in here too. You can actually do your chores better, because if you're training outside of doing your farm chores, you're going to get a little stronger, and everything's going to feel a little bit easier after that. There's such a thing as performance plateaus too. If you're not pushing yourself, you're not going to be improving your cardiovascular performance. So riding is a relatively low heart rate activity. So if you're trying to lose weight, or you're trying to like improve your fitness or your health, you're gonna go up and up and up and up while you're riding, and then you're gonna hit a point where you're no longer getting challenged anymore. And that can be really discouraging too. Not only are you not getting better, but then you start thinking, well, why am I not getting better? I must suck. And then you kind of fall off the wagon, and end up doing this cycle too. So we don't want to hit the performance plateaus. This is something that can help us work through it. And then when I talk about the rider imbalances that you can create from the barn chores, that's going to translate to crookedness in your horse too. You see a lot of people, they'll get the chiropractor for their horse and they'll have to come back and it's the same thing every time. And if you've been to any biomechanics workshops, which are really cool, definitely recommend you do it. The chiropractors will tell you a lot of times they'll see it mirrored from the rider to the horse. So the rider crookedness is going to create the horse crookedness from its compensation there. Another one is that horses and humans fit up at different rates too. You've probably noticed, you say you get on your horse and you just can't keep up with him. I know it. Bentley is a beast. If I weren't keeping ahead of him, I would never be able to keep up with him. It's like anybody who's ridden him can tell you that. You know, we don't lose, the horses, they don't lose the fitness as fast as humans do. And they fit up a lot faster as well. So, you know, we don't have to have that struggle. I want to be strong enough that I can keep up with him, but I can also kind of keep him under control, because we all know what that first start of the first ride is every single year, right? When they're really, really spicy. And the last reason, and my favorite reason, is to save your horse. So this could be many different reasons, anything from that rider crookedness I was talking about, to just being able to get off and walk your horse or run your horse if you want to save its energy. However, the biggest component I like to think of is that when you're working out outside of it, you develop an understanding of your body and how hard you're asking yourself to work. I think it helps you develop the empathy that you need to be able to work with your horse as a partner as well. And I know absolutely, when I started heart rate training myself, I developed a much better understanding and I was much more empathetic with my horse. So I think that's the biggest way that you really save your horse here too. So I wanted to talk about some of in more detail, the benefits of the different components. There's 4 components that I'll get through as we go here, and then I'm going to summarize afterwards. So we've got flexibility. Flexibility, let's have my meme here of our normal yoga and equestrian yoga. I like to say flexibility should be your very basic plan. A lot of people say they don't have time to work out. How many of you guys say, I don't have time to work out? Don't worry, raise your hand. I'm not going to judge you, because I said it, we all say it, we all have trouble finding time in our lives to do this. So 15 minutes, if you can find 15 minutes in the day, do some sort of flexibility work, because that is the thing that is going to save you the most. As I said, riding itself is difficult. Doing your barn chores itself is difficult. You need something to balance that out, and flexibility is key. So focus your efforts here. Reason why is it improves your mobility. So it does that by improving the imbalances that are restricting your muscle contraction. It's going to improve your posture, and it's going to improve your blood flow. It improves the range of motion of your joints, which will improve your balance. It removes the barriers to your speed and agility, and it reduces your feelings of stiffness. Anyone who's been to a yoga class knows it feels good. It really feels good. And you say, why don't I do this more often? 15 minutes every day. That's what you need. Lastly, it improves your ability of the muscles and the connective tissues to lengthen. So that's going to increase your efficiency of movement. And it's also going to improve your ability to relax and recover from training. As I said, it'll make you feel real good. Next component we have is cardio. And what that does for us is it improves our body's ability to use the oxygen and the nutrients. So you can take in more oxygen and your body will be more efficient with using it. It's going to reduce your resting heart rate, which has so many benefits. One of them being risk of disease. It's going to decrease that. It's going to improve your stamina. It's going to help you last longer out on the trail, and it's going to increase your overall energy as well. It's also going to reduce your recovery time, because it's going to help with that oxygen efficiency in your cells. And the nice thing about cardio, if you can add that onto your flexibility program, is there is a lot of options. Riding itself is cardio. You've got running, you've got bike, you've got dancing, you've got rowing, you've got swimming. Anybody else have any ideas? I'm sure there's absolutely tons out there. Those are just kind of some of my favorites personally. There we go, next slide. The next component of a training program would be strength, which is, you know, what you see when you're doing the lifts and all that. So strength is really good for functional fitness. I'm going to take a moment here to describe what functional fitness is, because it might not be a term that you've heard before. So functional fitness is your ability to do day-to-day activities that you would normally do. Now, you know, in the textbooks, they say, you know, mowing the lawn and bringing home groceries and things like that. For us, it's a little more extreme. It is, you know, doing the hay, and it is, you know, bringing in the horses and doing the feed and lugging water buckets everywhere too, right? So functional fitness and strength is really very important for endurance riders and poses a lot of value. It also improves our body composition. Again, as I spoke about a little bit earlier, it's not necessarily about losing weight, but you can lose weight and gain muscle with strength activities. It improves your metabolism. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn. So if you are looking to lose weight, gaining muscle, you're going to actually burn more calories when you're not doing activities than if you don't have a lot of muscle. Another concept with strength, which would be of interest to riders, is muscle endurance. So muscle endurance is not about the size of the muscle, it's about the muscle's ability to perform repetitions. So it's about its ability to continue on and on and on and on. So what does it sound like? Sounds like posting trot for 8 hours. It also is going to improve your joint and bone strength. It's going to give you better posture because all the muscles are going to help support your core and your body. It's going to decrease your risk of injury, both, as I said, because it's going to improve your balance. But also, you know, if you get tossed, you've got a lot of nice, strong muscles to support your bones, your vertebrae systems, all of that. So having the stronger muscles will actually kind of hold you in place almost. And I think it really does a lot for your self-confidence too, because it's to be able to lift things, feel good at the end of the day. It feels really nice. And lastly, it's the perfect way to correct and recognize your imbalances too. And I'm going to show you what I use to actually determine where I have imbalances in that as well. But strength is really where I notice it personally. So I wanted to add that in. And then the last one that is important for equestrians in particular is our balance. So what is balance? It helps keeps you above the horse. Don't really have to tell you a lot about that. As I mentioned too, when you're training your flexibility, your cardio, and your strength training, your balance is actually going to improve naturally. You'll find that, you know, you're just more nimble than you were because you've trained all these things. But because we're equestrians, we want to do a little bonus balance stuff because we want to do more than your average everyday Joe Schmo. So I'll show you later too with my tools. I've got some additional tools that I use for it. And I'm not actually going to get into any balance exercises today, but there are a lot of things that you can train beyond just the basics as well. And again, it reduces your risk of injury because we're up on top of the horse, we're not below it. We're also less likely to fall over taking our pants off. There's all types of balance as well. There's static and dynamic. Static is standing, say, on one foot on the steady ground. Dynamic is something where you're moving around. So when we're talking about riding, we're looking at a more dynamic balance. And it's also critical for movement patterns. So a movement pattern is any pattern that, any movement that's more than one. So you might hear as a compound movement to that. So a single movement would be, say, a bicep curl, whereas a movement pattern would be something like a burpee where you're doing multiple movements at a time. So because you're moving in different planes, you're moving all over the place, you got to have good balance to be able to do that. Riding obviously has a lot of movement patterns where we're moving things separately, and we need to be able to balance while we're moving everything all around the place. So guess what? You already know the basics. I may have gone through a whole lot of stuff explaining it there, but chances are you already know what this looks like, because if it'll go, there we go. You already built a training program for your horse. You guys know how to get fit. You know how to do it for the horse, but what does it look like for the human? So I've built us a little chart, and unfortunately they don't go in line by line. So you get to do the whole thing at once, and I'll talk through it, and it's a very boring slide, but I think it'll make a lot of sense to you. So when we talk about the flexibility, as I said, for us, it's the stretching and the yoga and the massage and the physiotherapy. For your horse, you're probably already doing this too. You're probably doing things like carrot stretches. You're going to bring in a massage therapist or a chiropractor for your horse. You're probably doing dressage, and I'm not talking about, you know, the tough, very collected dressage. I'm talking about the long and low, the stretchy stuff, the ones where you just say, you know what, let's get in the ring and let's get you bending side to side too, right? You're working on your flexibility for your horse. You should work on the flexibility for you too. And that's how you can compare the two. The next is your cardio section. So for your horse, that's when we're doing our long, slow distance. Sometimes we do interval training, and sometimes we do sprints. Anything to kind of get their heart rate moving. When we say cardio, we're talking about the heart. So for the equestrian, or for the rider, all those same things apply. You can still do long, slow distance. You can still do interval training. You can still do sprint training. All of that is going to contribute to improving your heart's health. And as I mentioned in the previous one, you can do so many different activities that way. You can run, you can walk, cycle, swim, dance, Zumba class, whatever it is you enjoy doing. There's so many options. I think that you could probably find one you like. When you're training your horse strength, that's when you start training it with the dressage. That's when you're starting to bring them into a more collected frame so that they are engaging their core, they're bringing up their back, and they're working through their body. You're developing that musculature so that they can carry you on the back. Another example of strength for your horse is hill training. We're trying to build up those bum muscles so that they're nice and strong. What it looks like for you. This is our body weight exercises. This is our weightlifting, progressive overload. It's a term, I'm gonna explain it a little bit more later too. And lastly, balance. The kind of icing on the cake for the horse is your lunging and then developing self-carriage so that they can balance too. And that helps them to, you know, navigate over roots and rocks and that on trail. For the rider, it looks like extra core work, it looks like compound movements, and it looks like some of the balance tools that I'm going to show you a little bit later too. So the point of this whole chart is a lot of us, most of us, we already have these very in-depth training programs that have multiple different facets for our horses because we're trying to train the whole athlete. So as a human, we want to train the whole athlete too. We don't want to just focus on one of these because it's going to build a better athlete overall. That is that. So since we know now what we need to include in the training program, I thought I would give you some of my tips that I use when I'm building a training program. We're going to schedule our strength and higher intensity cardio 3 to 4 times per week. The reason that you do that is because you need to give your muscles time to recover. We'll alternate each day, so we'll do 1 day on, 1 day off, and we'll do active recovery days, which would be a light cardio or a yoga, alternating the two. That gives your muscles a chance to relax, repair, and then be stronger. If you do too much, chances are you're only going to break yourself down. The same thing is going to happen with your horse. How many of you guys, quick poll if you guys want to just put into the comments, how many of you guys give your horses rest days whether it be one day in between, or sometimes I know at the end of rides, exclude the actual competitive ride itself, but on a regular training, does everybody do alternating on off, or sometimes one day on, 2 days off, or if they have a particularly hard one, maybe they'll get even 3 days off or something to recover? Yes, Deb says always. So there we go. And Julie says 3 to 5 days. Yes. Charlene says yes. Karen says it's all about the change up. Yes, perfect. The other thing I want to point out is when I say a rest day, it's actually not a rest day. It's an active recovery day. So for your horse, this probably looks like you might bring up a massage therapist. You might, take them for a hand walk. You might even get on and do some light dressage. Remember how I was talking about the stretchy stuff and some bending, help them work out some of the kinks in their system. It might even just be if your horse is on pasture turnout, they're moving around. That's their active recovery. So we want to do the same thing for us too. So, putter around the house, take your, unpack your trailer, light cardio. That could be your ride day too, right? So if you do strength and hard cardio one day, you might want to go for a nice casual ride the next day. That is active recovery. So perfect. We can definitely ride in this. There's always time to ride. One thing I like to do is, remember how I said 15 minutes every day? Do your stretch. Stretch every day. Doesn't matter whether it's a recovery day or an intensity day. Make sure you are stretching. What I like to say, and what the science says, is that if you're doing static stretches, you do it after your workout, not before. Before your workout can actually hinder your range of motion and increases your chance of injury. So you want to be still warm from your workout when you do your static stretching. The strength days, as a rider, you should always prioritize core. As I said, I know we all have so many commitments right now. We have completely lack time. But if you can do one thing, if you can spend 5-10 minutes, prioritize core exercises, because you cannot go wrong there. The other thing, the concept you should know from riding, but maybe you don't know the term for it, is progressive overload, which means start small and very, very gradually increase over time. So from a cardio standpoint, if you say you're a runner and today you ran 1 mile, it means that if this is your first mile, don't all of a sudden expect to go run 4 miles tomorrow. You want to increase it very, very slowly, maybe by 5 to 10% per run, so that you're not injuring yourself. But you do want to progress it, because otherwise you're never going to improve. There are plenty of ways that you can increase it. You can, without actually increasing just the mileage. Mileage is just one side of it. You can increase your elevation. You can increase any weight you're carrying. You can increase your speed. You can decrease recovery times. All various methods of progressive overload for a cardio program. From a strength program, what it looks like is picking up heavier weights, doing more challenging movements. In some cases, it might be like, if they're body weight exercises, you may alternate your lever length or change the tempo. There are tons of different ways that you can gradually increase the difficulty of the exercise. Just in case it wasn't obvious, if you have an injury, you immediately should be reducing the workload. And depending on the injury, of course, you should be seeking your doctor's advice before returning to any number of activities. So there you go. Ask for help. Ask your doctor, ask your friends, ask personal trainers, ask for help. That is the really best thing that you can do for building your training plan. So yeah, moving on. People always ask, what is the best exercise to do? And it doesn't matter if they say it's for weight loss, for performance, for this, for that, for that. Best exercise is the one you love. So I realize the irony of me posting a photo of me riding on this slide, because the whole point is that we're doing stuff outside of riding. But I just wanted you to see the smile on my face and how much I clearly love going out and riding. So the point is that we want to find something that we love almost as much as we love riding. I know none of us are going to find anything we love more than that. I hope not. And if we do, it's okay. We can do both of them. There's no reason why we can't do both of them. So if you can find one that you love, it's going to make you happy. It's going to boost your confidence, but it's also going to increase your commitment to it as well. If you hate it, you're not going to be motivated to do it. You're not going to show up for it. And you're not going to reach the goals that you want to. So it's very important that you find something that you enjoy doing. That being said, I do have a personal preference for endurance riders. If you're willing to entertain my probably unpopular opinion for a little while, I prefer running. The reason why I prefer running is I find it to be very transferable. I can get off, I can run my horse. At the very minimum, I need to trot him out for the vet checks anyway. So I believe that running is, for me, the best cross training that I can do. Personal opinion, you don't have to do it, but it's something to consider. So we talked about how to build the training plan, but what should your actual individual workout look like? Now, depending on how much time you have, I've kind of taken anywhere from 30 minutes to 60 minutes here for a day. Depending on how much time you have, we're going to start with a 5 to 10 minute warm up. And this is something that you're going to start to develop a real intuition about, I want to say. I use my warm up to get to know my body each day. Because every day my body might be giving me something a little bit different. My personal favorite is I start off walking, and then I start off jogging very, very slow. And I start from the ground up and I work my way through my body and say, okay, is anything hurting? Does anything feel like it's too tight? Is anything not moving moving the right way? And I work my way up there. So I use that as kind of like a mental check-in with myself. So my personal preference is to do light cardio, which is the middle point there. You can also do dynamic stretches. So I talked about the stretching and the static stretching. That's when you're holding a pose. Dynamic stretching is when you're moving through pose. So it could be like a light lunge, or it could be, some high kicks or something like that. You could also do foam rolling. If you're interested in foam rolling, the science says do it before your workout, not after, because it could actually improve your workout by warming up the muscles and lubricating the joints in that. You can also do a specific warm-up, which would be if you're doing a strength training exercise, you're going to take the exercise that you're planning on doing and do a very light version of it. So if you're doing bicep curls, you can just do it without weights, and then you do light weights before you get into the heavy weights. So that's going to warm up the specific area of the body that you're intending to work that day. As I said, I like the cardio because the way I structured my workout, I do my light cardio, and then I move right into my steady state or interval cardio. Steady state, I don't think I really explained what it is. It's basically pick a speed, stick with it. It is your, trotting down the trail all day long kind of pace, versus interval training where you'll throw in, you can just some variety. You can do a little bit of walking. You may do 30 seconds of sprinting. You may do some just kind of hard push. You may go down a little bit. There are a lot of ways to do interval training. And my personal preference is to do interval training because, especially if you're on a treadmill, it just breaks it up. It makes it a lot more palatable to do it in 30-second to 2-minute intervals than saying I have to do 20 minutes of running on the treadmill. So personal preference is interval, but if you like steady state, as I said, do what you like, because I would rather you be consistent than decide that you don't want to do it after a week, right? We don't want to give up here. So when you're talking about the intensity of this, we're usually saying a good cardio workout is between 70 and 90% of your heart rate. The warm-up, I didn't mention that, 40 to 60%. So what does that actually mean? Now, some of us use heart rate monitors, some of us don't. If you don't use a heart rate monitor, it's actually simple enough. You can just rank how you're feeling 1 to 10. 10 being like, I'm gonna drop dead, and 1 being I'm sleeping. So when you're warming up, you wanna be kind of in that mid-range where you can still talk, you're not huffing and puffing, you feel, I could probably do this for a really long time. Just from my own personal experience, this is generally generally what I feel when I'm riding. So if you're trying another activity, think about how you feel when you're riding. That's kind of your warm-up speed. Then when you start adding in the intensity, you're going to move up to 7 to 9 out of 10. So that's when you're going to really start getting the heart rate up. You're going to sweat a little, you're going to huff and puff, and around 80% or so, you're going to start saying, I don't think I could carry on a conversation. Any questions that you get asked, they're one-word answers. So hopefully that helps you pick an appropriate intensity for you. And obviously, in any case, if you have any difficulty breathing or if you have any injuries, keep it in the light zone. Don't try to add any intensity. So I would do 10 to 30 minutes of that, depending on how long you're planning. And then I would do another 10 to 30 minutes of strength. Core, upper, lower, full body, whatever parts you want to work. There's plenty of good ways to do it. Some people like to do just focus on one body area per day. Other people like to do a mix of it. So if you can find something that works for you, if you know what works for you, you can work around that. Now I put 10 to 30 minutes of both cardio and strength because you can do both. You can do both cardio and strength on the same day. You could dedicate 1 day to cardio. You could dedicate 1 day to strength. You can kind of mix it up. And that's why I put such a big range on there as well, because really it's about creating a plan that's going to work for you. And then at the end of the workout, 5 to 15 minutes of your static stretching. As I said, really think it should be 15. But if you're sweaty and you're starting to cool down and you really need to hit that shower so that you're not getting sick, do your 5 minutes, have your shower, and then do another 15-minute stretch later too. So again, looking at if you can commit 30 minutes, you can do something. You can do 60 minutes, even better. And that's really all you need. Anything beyond an hour, you're probably just wasting your time. Sorry, shouldn't say that. Don't want to be rude that way. But you can fit in a really, really good workout in under an hour. You just have to be aware of the intensity. And a lot of people, when they get to the gym and when they do these activities, they're on their cell phones texting, or they're watching TV, or they're like sitting on the machines drinking a shake. I don't know what they're doing, but they're definitely wasting their time there. If you go in with a plan, you know what you're going to do, you hit each one, you get through there, you get out of there. 1 hour, your day is done for the workout. You've got 23 hours left to spend in the day. So I like that. I like being efficient that way. So where would you start to find out more about fitness, and where can you get, what resources would you use for this? So I've kind of ranked these in a certain order, and what I really need is like a 6-dimensional graph or something to be able to properly display this. But I'll try to touch on some of the positives and the negatives for each one of them. So there are free and paid workout videos, books, articles, everything online. There is no shortage of them. There are tons of them out there. There are lots of really good ones. There are, people, everything from, you and me up to, super, they can't be real Barbie types, doing their crazy workouts too, right? So there are all sorts of things, every level, like the creativity in these are amazing. A lot of very inspiring workout ideas out there. So that's what they're really good for. These free and workout videos, they are great for inspiring ideas. And if you are a relatively experienced athlete, and you are confident in your form, you're confident that you know what exercises should work for you and that you can be able to reproduce that, these are a really great way to kind of come up with ideas. It's what I do. I spend, you know, a good half an hour each day looking through Instagram, looking through articles and writing down the ones I want to try that. I'm going to challenge people to do this one. This is going to be put into my toolkit. So that is the one of my favorite parts about these free and online, and it's also free, so like it's free. They also demonstrate it too, so if you do need a little bit of help and you're like, I can't visualize that, or I have no idea, you know, it's called something absolutely crazy, I have no idea what that looks like, it's a really good way to demonstrate it and say, do I look like this, do I not? But obviously the weakness, there are some weaknesses with this one too. There is so much, like there's so much to pick from, which can be good, it can be bad. So if you're relatively new to this, you don't know where to start, it can be pretty overwhelming. You kind of just need something to narrow you down. And we don't want to get you stalled before you even start. So that's kind of the downside I see to these free workout videos, is just like total overwhelm. Another downside to it is there's no real commitment there. You kind of, you can tootle in, tootle out whenever you want. And there's nothing really to motivate you to actually do it. You might do it one day, you might even do it 2 days, but being able to stick with a regular program is really difficult with these online resources as well. So moving up from there, another one you could consider is an online challenge. And that is one where you're going to have approved accountability. Online challenges, there's a wide range, everything from like, here's a little sheet and you're going to, you know, telling you how many push-ups to do each day, into community groups. Some of you have been around since back in December, we did a challenge, a fitness challenge in the Ride Like an Athlete group. And that really improved everybody's accountability. It was directed towards weight loss, and we rewarded each other for our healthy decisions. So it didn't matter, you know, how heavy you lifted or anything. You just had to participate to be part of it. And everyone was chatting. It was amazing. If you guys want to comment in the chat box there, if you participated in it. I know Charlene was actually our winner, and she's here tonight too. I was really, really proud of her for that too. She really did fantastic at this. So yeah, having that community, having those people there to support you are, it really adds a lot of value. And it doesn't have to be, some of them are paid, some of them are free. Some of them, you know, we had prizes. We had $1,000 worth of prizes that we gave out for this challenge. And it's a real fun way to kind of get involved with people. The other side is there's less thinking required because it's kind of just checking off the boxes. Usually there'll be a standard plan for everybody to follow there. So the weakness in this one is that even though you have all this added, you have a plan in front of you, you can check the boxes, say, okay, I did this, 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 and this today. It's not personalized. It doesn't take into account your personal goals. It doesn't take into account any injuries you might have. And it might not be it might not even be the right level for you too, depending on the challenge and depending how they structure it too. So the next one up from that, I would say really good is group fitness. As I said, I've been going to Orange Theory for almost 4 years now. I love going to the classes because to me, that was an even greater accountability and community. I'm not a morning person, or at least I didn't used to be a morning person. People now think I'm a morning person because I would get up at 5 in the morning so that I could get to the 6:30 class 45 minutes away from my house because I love the 6:30 group of people so much. And if I was late, I would get text messages from my friends in the class and they say, where are you, Sarah? And I saved your favorite treadmill for you and that too. And you can't beat that kind of community. It feels so nice to come in and there's just like a room full of smiling faces looking forward to seeing you every day, and you're looking forward to seeing them too. So that increases your fun factor because you're there with all of your friends and you're looking forward to it. They also have, they're really experienced trainers in that a lot of them have like curated playlists, and that they have fun music and mood lighting, and that there's all sorts of different fun things, and there's a great variety of them too, right? Orange Theory is a pretty serious one. We do have so much fun, but then you also have, kind of the lighter versions. You've got, your dance-based ones. You've got your Zumbas, or you have yoga classes too, where it's relaxing, right? So there's group fitness that can really be tailored to anybody, and could be fun for anybody too. So I do recommend, take these studios up on their free trials, and that when this whole COVID thing is over, just go and try some of them. They're really great environments. Last good reason for group fitness is they're run by trainers. Depending on what actual fitness source this is, you might have anywhere from a small class of, I've been in yoga classes that are like 3 people. And then Orange Theory, I think we maxed out at 24, which is a pretty good ratio, trainer to that. Some of the other ones, the big ones downtown, I've heard of up to 40 to 50 people in like spin classes and that. So depending on how much contact you want with the trainer, you can consider that when you're trying to decide a group fitness to pick. I personally like having the access to the trainer. I like being close with them, so I like the smaller classes. And they're important because they are going to be there to make sure that your technique is okay, that you're not going to be injuring yourself, and that you're getting the best value for your workout too. Like, you're there, you're working out, you might as well do it right and build yourself right. Right? Okay. So yeah, your trainers are there. And then in some cases too, you get to know the trainers really, really well. They know your goals, and they can help change things around a little bit. I think I was probably going to Orange Theory. I was probably both their favorite and their worst client, because towards the end, I already knew everything that I needed to do, but I'm a rider. I came in with a lot of injuries, so they had to work hard to come up with alternative exercises for me when I couldn't do the normal things in the class. But then again, towards the end, I just like, it's okay, I'm hurt, but I already got this, so you can just go back to everybody else now too. But to be able to have that relationship with a trainer that you're going to, because you're going to their classes every week, sometimes multiple times a week, is really, really valuable. And then the most personalized one is your personal training. So the difference between that and your group fitness is personal training is one-on-one. And that is what I am doing. It is best for accountability and support because, one, you're paying a higher price. I'm not going to lie there. It's the most expensive of all these. I did rank them in order of least expensive to most expensive. So when you're paying good money, you're going to show up. You may not want to, but you're going to show up because it's one person waiting for you. Class can go on if you're not there, but in a personal training situation, I can't do anything if you don't show up. So really, it's the best accountability. And it's also the best support too, because the trainer is not just there for you during the lesson. We're thinking about you all the time. We're trying to, I'll be reading articles and I'll send it to people because I'm like, hey, I really thought this could help you too, right? You get a lot more of that personal attention, which, as I said, it goes both ways. You have the personalization for your goals and injuries. So if you go to a class situation, here's a really good workout that works for a lot of people. But as a rider, you might not want to do the same thing that everyone else is doing. You want something that is more tailored to your goals, your riding goals. And even there, like, there's so much specialization. Maybe you just want to do your first 12-mile ride, or maybe you want to do the Mongol Derby. Like, there are so many specializations that different trainers can bring for you as well. The other advantage too is if you have an injury, they can give you all sorts of alternatives. They can work with your medical professionals like your doctor and your physiotherapist and your chiropractor to build a program to not only keep you going through the injury, keep you off the injury, but sometimes even help recover from the injury. And that's really where the problem solving comes in, is you have one person one-on-one to problem solve with. The other side I already kind of touched on a bit too, is they've got a lot of supplementary skills. We're not all just personal trainers. We do lots of stuff outside of it. I obviously ride endurance, but I also, have a day job where I look at a lot of statistics and do a lot of stuff in Microsoft Excel. Some people are going to be nutritionists. You might have life coaches. You might have all sorts of different other skills that people bring in from their daily lives. I like to call this their toolkit. So you have this big toolkit of all these various skills that's going to create a unique experience for you. So yeah, those are the various different ways that you can kind of start getting involved with your own training program and building your training program through yourself or with others too. All right, we're moving on to the section where I'm going to pick you up and carry you over to my studio. So I'm just going to unplug you and hope that nobody sees the messy parts of my house as I go over here. And there we are. Can everyone see me? We're all good? Okay, so welcome to my studio. This is where, if you've been watching, if you've been joining the Ride Like an Athlete group, you've seen all my workouts here with my fancy red rug in the back, and some of my other tools here. And I wanted to go through some of the tools that I use that you guys might want to use as well. So the very first one I wanted to show you is my mat. It is a yoga mat. This one's from Lululemon. I wanted to treat myself and I got something more expensive. But really, I think you can get mats for like $20, $30 on Amazon or Walmart or Superstore or any of that. And if you're looking at investing in equipment, I'd say mat is a really good place to start, because we've got all sorts of exercises that we can do, body weight, but having a mat, it gives you a little extra cushion, which is better on the joints, and it also helps you from slipping. So moving around, not slipping, because we definitely don't want to slip, fall, injure ourselves. So if you want to just get one thing, go for a mat. The next thing, what did I have on the list? My mini bands. So these are another one. I'm not going to show you what I do with them today, but this is something I got for, it was nice and cheap, like $15 on Amazon or something. These are mini bands. They're these little circular elastic bands that you can use as resistance training for all sorts of different exercises. As I said, we're not going to use them today, but they are very handy. They are nice and cheap. There are a lot of free videos in the Ride Like an Athlete group that use the mini bands, and I do use them quite a lot. Actually, another side to the mini bands too is my physiotherapist. I don't think I've mentioned yet in this seminar, but I had ankle surgery 4 months ago. So I actually don't have any feeling in my foot right now. And I've been working with my physiotherapist online, and she has me doing a lot of exercises with the mini bands too. They have, I should have pointed this out, various different resistances too. So we've got light ones, and then we've got heavy ones, which are much harder to pull. Generally, they come in packs of 3 to 5, and that way you can work smaller muscles too. So with the ankle, I've been using the lightweight bands because it is a very delicate area, and as recovering from an injury, you definitely don't want to go heavy right away. The next tool I was going to show you was my dumbbells. So that's another thing that if you want to spend a little bit more, it's something that I prefer to use dumbbells over, weight machines, kettlebells, any other sort of, weight machines than that. Reason being is this is how I can test when I talk about the imbalances. I can test to see if I'm imbalanced anywhere. So how does it feel? Does one feel easier than the other? Dumbbells are really, really good for that. You see a lot of people with the barbells where they go, above, put them on their shoulders or they'll lift them up. I don't like those ones as much because I find you can compensate. If one arm or one leg is stronger than the other, by having it fixed, you're not necessarily going to know if you're imbalanced. So by having these, you can't really cheat because one side's going to be heavier than the other. If you fall over on one side, guess what? That's your weak side. So if you're investing in dumbbells or investing in some sort of weight, I would say dumbbells or anything else. I have here 7 to 20 pounds. I do have some smaller ones too. They're out on loan. And I'm waiting to get, once COVID's over, some nice, really big ones too. Really, you can start off with some lightweights and maybe some moderate ones too. I find this is a really good range for most exercises though, between the 5 to 20 pounds there. There is, hold on, I'm just gonna have a drink because my mouth's getting dry. The next one I was going to show you is some balance training. So another thing I have out on loan is a Bosu, so I can't share that with you. But a Bosu basically looks like, it looks like if you were to cut this in half. So it is half of a sphere and then it's flat on the top. And that's a really good balance trainer because you can do squats on it and then you're all wobbly with your feet and that. It helps mimic riding. These are Pilates cushions. Again, I think they're maybe like $15, $20 on Amazon or something. I don't really remember. And they are nice and squishy too. You can pump them up as firm or as soft as you want. And this is one where I could, practice my balance and doing an exercise if I'm doing squats. It's a little easier than the Bosu. Oh, sorry, cat's in the way. So we're an animal house here. His name is Taz, by the way, if anybody cares. So yeah, these ones, good for balance. You can start doing single leg stuff too. The reason I bought two was so that I could stay balanced and practice kind of riding poses. Oh, dead foot, can't feel it. So yeah, you can use that. You can use the Bosu. You can also use this kind of ball for balance, and you do anywhere from. This one's a really soft one, so it's particularly difficult for balance. But you can do everything from sitting up to your knees. I'm not going to do that right now. Up to plank poses where you go out and you're challenging your core this way. All of these really good balance trainers, variety. And there's, as I said, different levels that you can do each time. And the last thing I wanted to share were some of my recovery tools. Obviously the mat counts as a recovery tool too, because I can do all my stretching on it. But then I also have a foam roller. Again, it's only like $30 or something. It's a self-massage tool. These are all self-massage tools. So it's got these lumps here. It's really actually quite intense. I'm not going to go through how to use it because that's another 5 minutes in of itself. But it's, for the most part, it's for the big muscles, particularly legs and butt. And I have this little tiger tail roller. I don't really use it that much, but again, it's just like a rolling pin for your legs. And then I've got these little guys too. these little spiky massage rollers. And then the alternative too would be tennis ball. We've got this at the dollar store. And you can do with the legs, or you can do with the feet. I've had a lot of knots in my back recently, so I'll actually take the tennis ball up. Oh, can you guys see me over here? Yeah. Put it up against the wall and kind of just do the dance, rubbing it against the wall, working the knots out there. The spiky ones, definitely don't want to put too much pressure on that. The tennis ball is quite nice. Lacrosse ball, I know a lot of yoga teachers use a lacrosse ball as well, but I couldn't find one of those. So tennis ball it is. So that's it for my tools. The next thing, I'm coming back because I'm going through and I'm looking at the exercises I was planning on showing you all. So yeah, I've got 9 exercises that I wanted to show you. Let me just check the time. Holy, we are way over time. Who wants to see the exercises, or who wants to save that for another day? And then I can get to questions instead. Maybe I should put a poll up. Maybe just quick in the chat bar if anybody, I see questions and I see go for it, which I don't know if that means questions or exercises. Okay, it's mixed. Next person seals it. Okay, we're doing exercises. You guys are gonna make me work out before bed. So the first one that I'm gonna do is a core exercise. It is a plank shoulder tap, and let me take my hair back so that safety first. So this is a core one, and I like this one for riders because the intention of it is to keep your core steady while moving your arms. So when you're riding, you want to give and take with your reins. So it's a way that we can practice it here as well, and just kind of developing that body awareness. So, and a lot of people also, they don't like plank because it's kind of boring, and I don't really like it either because it's kind of boring. So I like to make it more active by adding in some modifiers. So you're going to get into your plank. You can start out in a tabletop position like this. You're going to tuck your toes under. This one needs a little help because, again, it's numb. And then you're going to just push off. So your shoulders are right underneath your hands are right underneath your shoulders. You're going to make your body nice and straight. So you want to have straight from your shoulders to your hips to your ankles there. And this is your plank position. Now to add the modifier, all we're going to do is just touch our shoulders like this. So the point is we're keeping our body still and we are just touching our shoulders. And you can do that for as long as you want. You can do it as a count, you can do it as a timed exercise, whatever works for you. So that's kind of a general core. It works front and back, and also, as I said, adds a little bit of dynamic movement there. The next one I have is our double crunch. I'm sure you all know, I've seen the crunch before. It's just a regular crunch. I like to do the double crunch because it works the lower part of the abs, the upper part of the abs. This is working on our front. So a regular crunch, you're just using the head. Double crunch, you're bringing your knees up as well. Just like that. The next side we're going to work on is our Superman. A lot of people think when you say core, they like to think about six-pack abs, but really core is everything all around. So we got to work on our back too, and it's super, super important as riders to work on our back. We need to be very strong, both sides of it. Otherwise, we're going to start looking like this in the saddle with the duck butt. So we're going to do a Superman, which is easy to get into. We're just going to lay on our mat. It's important to keep your mat clean for these reasons. And then we're stretching straight above. Point your toes right back. And then you're just going to raise both at the same time. Now you don't want to go too high like this. You kind of want to go just enough that you're going to feel the engagement in the glutes and through the back here. So you're going to raise it up just a little off the ground and then down, and then up and pause and down. And you can continue like that. We're going to move on to the legs. So I've tried to do 2 exercises for each, with the exception of the core, because I did tell you, you got to focus on the core. So for the legs, I put in here a forward and reverse lunge. So a forward lunge is when you're stepping forward. Which foot do I want to do this on? It's a little difficult with the feeling for me. So if I wobble, point is you don't want to wobble, you want to do it nice and slow and steady, but we're not perfect, things happen. So forward lunge, you're stepping down and back. So we're going down, we want the knee is not going to go over top like this, the toe, you want it behind the toe. And you can tap if you need to, the back leg, but ideally you'll have it just as low as you can get without touching, and then back. The reverse lunge is the opposite. So you're still looking the same way, but instead of stepping forward, you're stepping back. And this one's a little easier because I have my dead foot planted here. And if you really want to make it difficult, you can combine the two. You can go a swing lunge. And I'm outstriding my mat, so the form's not great, but you get the idea. The other one that I wanted to do for your legs is called the clamshell. And remember how I said I wasn't going to use the bands? I'm not going to use the bands, but this is one that you can use with the bands. And this one's very sexy. It's like a mermaid. You're going to lay down and don't be embarrassed. Nobody's watching except for all you. And you're just opening up the hips like this. So your feet stay together, but your knees are coming apart. And that's going to be working these hip muscles up in here, the small ones in there. And that's something that tends to get really tight with riders. If you've ever had piriformis issues, this is a really good one to do. Now we're going to do some shoulders. We have front and lateral raises. So I have my weights here, but also I've shown in some other workout videos other things that you can use, like this one would be a good one for water bottles. I'm going to do my weights, but you can use a water bottle. So a front and lateral raise. You're going to just stand with your feet hip width apart, so nice and square from here to here. You're going to stand with your back straight. Your core is going to be engaged. And when I say that, it's like you're not just pulling you're pulling your belly button in. That's how most people will say, you're pulling your belly button in. But then I also like to think of it's going in, and then you're kind of expanding it out this way too. And that way, you're very strong all through the core. You want your core to be nice and steady because you're going to be moving around a little bit. So we're going to do a forward raise, just like this. Pause at the top, and then you're going to come back down. And then we're going to move it to the lateral raise, which is, you guessed it, sideways. Pause, and then down. So again, you're just going to the front, pause, down, inside, down. And these are working like rotator cuff kind of muscles in there. So they're all the small muscles. So you want to pick a nice light weight to do that with. Depending on where you're starting, you may even want to just do it just like this and just get the range of motion going. One thing I do like to tell people when I'm training them is think of every single exercise a bit of a stretch as well. In the lower part of the movement, relax down and kind of like gravity. And if you're holding weight, the weight kind of bring you a little deeper into the stretch as well. So you're getting a little stretch, and then you're doing the exercise as well, if it's appropriate. We're going to do another upper body, shoulders one. It is our bent over row. And I had meant to bring over some buckets for this, because this is one that, if you don't have weights, buckets are really good for. I think I had done this one with the Mad Barn electrolytes, which 4 kilograms, 5 kilograms, something like that. Anyway, buckets are really good for that. So if you've got supplement buckets or anything, give that a try. So you can go a little bit heavier on this one than those last ones, because you're going to be using the big muscles in your back. So with this, you're still going to have that nice pose where you're standing square, you're engaging the core, and then you're going to fold forward at the hips so that you're making about a 90-degree angle. And depending on what's comfortable for your wrist, you can either hold it like this, where it is perpendicular, I guess, to your body, or you can hold it parallel to your legs. So whatever's comfortable, you can hold it like that. And we're going to do a row. So you're just pulling it up like this. So you're going to keep the core engaged, and you're going to pull it up. Now what you don't want to do is you don't want to pull it up with the bicep or the tricep so much as you're pulling it up with the big muscles in your back. Not really any way for me to show it, but what you can see when you're in the top of the movement, you want to be pressing your shoulder blades together. You can imagine like you're holding a pencil or something between your shoulder blades in the back. And this is actually mimicking the movement of your half halt. So not only are you training the shoulders, you're building stronger shoulders, you're kind of practicing that picking up, you know, if you're doing your chores and that, but you're also practicing your half halt and building your muscle memory there. Let's see, I've got 2 more. We're doing a functional one. It's the full body one. It's our deadlift. And remember how I said functional is your everyday chores. It makes everyday chores easier. Deadlift is our picking up the hay, picking up the buckets, all of that. So this can actually be probably the heaviest weight of any of the exercises if I show you. And you're going to do, again, you're going to have your hips, your feet hip distance apart, maybe a little bit farther if that's comfortable for you. You're going to hinge at the hip. You want to keep your back straight. You can feel it up in the hamstring if you're as tight as I am. And you're just going to pick them up. And as you lift up, you're going to push through your feet first. And then you're going to pull your hips forward and have your body come to meet the weights. Then as you go down, you reverse it. And what I don't want to see you arcing your back down like this. The way you want to do it is by pushing the hips back. So think like you're sticking your butt out, because you're not sticking it out as far as you might think, but it's going to help your balance. It's going to, you get your little bit of flexibility. Here's your stretch right here. And then you do your pull up, and that's going to really improve the strength in your glutes and your hips. Very last one I have, I can only demonstrate the modification for it because I can't jump right now, is our burpee. And this is something if you want to kind of get your heart rate up and do a full exercise in just one exercise, you got your burpee. So you're jumping up. Imagine I'm jumping. Sorry, need the mat. Jumping up, put your hands down to the ground, you jump back, or you step back, you do the push-up, then you step forward, and then back up, jump, and reverse the process. So, and jump. And that's kind of one, if you have absolutely zero time, you can bang up a couple of burpees and feel like you did something too, because it is your full body workout. Now let me come back to you, because all I can see right now are my slides with my list. And let's do some questions. Hold on. I'm going to share the screen again with you because I do have my finished slides, so where it says questions and everything. Share screen. There we are. And I see we do have some questions, so let me see. Okay, so first one, Karen says, yes, that's a very good point. Not all personal trainers know what's involved with riding. So it's a good opportunity to educate them, or two, you can find somebody who's specialized. So not a question, good point, but yes. Bridget, I'm just gonna read yours. So Bridget's asking about upper body posture and being a sloucher. I don't want to give any suggestions for this because there could be so many reasons that this could be. It was something that we would actually, so when I work with a client, we do a consultation where now I'm doing it online. So, you know, you'll frame up in the video and I'll take a look and see what I can see if there's imbalances and that. So it would be something that you'd probably want to look at specific details for, because there could be any number of reasons that you have the posture this way. Generally, like in general, so definitely say work on core strength. You know, if we're sitting at desks and that, we tend to slouch because we've developed this posture going down a lot too. So you could do some stretches that are opening up the heart center. So I don't know if you can see me in the tiny little one back there. Here, I'll stop screen sharing for a second. So I like to do Cobra for that sort of thing. So just up like this. So you can go Sphinx, or you can go Cobra where you're opening up a little bit more and work on getting the chest opened. Typically, if you have a tight chest and pectoral muscles, it's going to pull you forward, hunch this way too. Which also means if it's tight here, it means it's probably weak in the back. So if it is indeed upper body in the chest, we would try to loosen this, tighten this, and then we're also going to build the strength in the core as well. And then we've got one more question, and then we're going to wrap it up. Cynthia, oh, just had another one coming. Two more questions, sorry. Cynthia's asking about imbalances and working on the weaker one more. I don't like to work on the weaker one more. I like to do it even and let the other one catch up, if that makes sense. Same thing with, you know, if my horse is, you know, stiff or sore on one side, I'm not gonna, you know, run it twice as much in the same direction on the circle. I'm just gonna kind of let it happen and try to create that balance. Because what's gonna happen is, you know, say your right side is strong and your left side is weak. Your right side, it's not working very hard to do this, whereas the left side is working harder. So you're going to see faster development even if you're doing the same thing. If that makes sense to you, let me know if that answers that. As I said, it's generally just don't keep the same weight, and then keep the same reps and continue that way. The next question. What do you recommend for balanced running schedules with the goal of improving long distance trail running? Okay. If you're considering doing running as its own sport, I think running the Western States Trail would be absolutely incredible, and it's probably something I wouldn't be able to even instruct you on because it's kind of outside of the realm of where I've been running. I've run a marathon, but nothing beyond that so far. So I'd say you'd probably want to work with a proper running coach for that. However, if you are, the runners, they seem to do more they do more mileage than the horse people do. So when training for marathons, marathon runners, they'll train, so it's what, 42.2 kilometers for the actual race, and most of them will be training between 60 and 100 kilometers per week total. And that will include, you know, kind of the daily runs, but then it'll also include generally a long run, which would maybe be doubled to 2 to 3 times the amount of running that they would do on a regular day. Really the best way to start is just track what you're doing now. Make sure you're using an app that can track you. Track what you're doing now, keep your averages for the week, and don't increase any more than 5 to 10% each run, or each long run in particular, because then you could run into injuries, and that's going to set you back a lot farther than going slow. Deb is asking about IT bands. That is a good opportunity for foam rolling. So, whoops, I forgot I had those in there. We're live, guys. These things happen. So foam rolling is a good one for the legs of the IT band. Basics that you need to know for it is you can do it before the workout or on its own. Don't do it over the joints. And really all you have to do is you just use your body weight. So if you're using the IT, if it's very tight, this is a good way to kind of loosen it up before you do any activity. So right now I have kind of moderate weight on it because I'm using this leg to prop me up. If I want to challenge my balance a little bit and put more weight on it, I take up the other leg and I use the other leg as a weight on there. So I would do that all the way down. You can see I didn't go down to the knee. I was just going above, and you can even do below and in the calves too. If it's still bothering you though, really you got to see a physiotherapist because they're going to be able to give you a lot more specific details for that. Okay, I think that wraps it up. So let me just go back to my slides so that we can finish this on that. How did I lose this? Ah, there we go. So there you go. If you want to find me, you can. Oh shoot, that just started the whole thing over again. Sorry guys, wrong slide. There we go. So if you want to find me, I've got my Instagram, it's Ride Like an Athlete. Email is simple, it's cuthbertson.sarah@gmail.com. Got ridelikeanathlete.com. There's not a lot of stuff there. I just started it, so you're not going to find very much. And you can also find our Ride Like an Athlete group, which you can just get through the search. If you guys think of any questions after this, or you want to ask me, feel free to reach out to me any place there. I also do, if you're interested in taking this any farther, I am starting to get into online personal training, since we can't obviously go to the gym. So I'm taking out what I was doing at the gym, putting it online now. So you can mention the webinar and I will give you 40% off any of my regular prices. And you got 2 months to take me up on that offer if you have any problems. Also, it's a free consultation. So if you want to get on the phone 15 minutes and kind of see if I can actually offer anything and if we're a good fit, just let me know. We'll book something in there. So cool. Thank you so much for joining. I went way over time. We've been 90 minutes now, but I think it was well spent, and look forward to seeing you guys doing your home workouts and maybe see you in the gym when these things open back up again. All right. And thanks so much. See you soon. Hopefully on the trails. Bye.